There is a commitment, Minister, in the programme for government for the establishment of a number of citizens' assemblies, one on the issue of drugs, but also one on the issue of education, which I believe is restricted to primary and secondary education. I want to know when this citizens' assembly will be established, what the terms of references will be, and what timescale that the assembly will sit for. So just further detail on this commitment, Minister, please.
Thank you, Deputy. Could I say at the outset that I am particularly pleased to see the inclusion of a Citizens' Assembly on the future of education in the programme for government. Experience internationally and here at home of citizens' assemblies as exercises in deliberative democracy have been extremely positive. Ireland is considered a leader in the use of deliberative democracy processes, having convened 3 in recent years. The Convention on the Constitution 2012 to 2014, the Citizens' Assembly 2016 to 18, and the ongoing Citizens' Assembly on Gender Equality, which commenced in 2019. The first 2 exercises led to referendums being held on 4 issues: reducing the age threshold for presidential candidates, marriage equality, removal of the offence of blasphemy and the 8th Amendment. Typically, citizens' assemblies have been established by individual Oireachtas resolutions, which have set out their terms of reference. I understand that initial proposals to hold a Citizens' Assembly on education have been informed by proposals from the Byrne College of Art, which called for the Assembly to examine issues such as how to properly position post-primary education for the 21st century and how to encourage greater creativity, student agency and indeed resilience. My 3-year strategy and annual implementation plan will incorporate priority actions from the programme for government, including the Citizens' Assembly on the future of education. I aim to publish the strategy later this year.
Minister, some of the, I suppose, reservations that people in education have about your appointment is not relating to any lack of ability or competence or understanding of the education system. Our nervousness is that a Conservative department meets a Conservative minister, and then the radical overhaul of our education system in Ireland, which could lead to having equality at the centre of it and addressing the constitutional underpinning of that education system, which ensures that we don't really have a state education system. We won't have the opportunity necessarily to deal with that in a radical way. So I was hoping that this Citizens' Assembly could deal with the constitutional underpinning of it. But in your first response to me, you haven't really given me a timeline as to when the Citizens' Assembly will meet. So I'd ask again, what is your ambition for the establishment of it, the sitting of it, and the terms of reference for it? Because I'm sure you have an opinion on it.
I'm still going on, I think.
Thank you, Deputy. And I would like to say for the record that I do come from a strong education background. I believe strongly in educational equality and inclusiveness. And I am a fan, and I will be hugely supportive of the Citizens' Assembly because I believe in the democracy that it will represent. The terms of reference for the Education Citizens' Assembly will be set out in the Oireachtas resolution establishing it. This will be informed by the views of all the relevant partners, and I think that is fair and that is as it should be. Based on previous assemblies, the Citizens' Assembly on the future of education could be quite wide-ranging, including constitutional issues, or it could focus on very specific areas of interest. Consultation informing the Oireachtas resolution could also consider whether the focus of the Assembly should cover learning from cradle to grave, or indeed focus on the primary and post-primary sectors. The other citizens' assemblies have considered constitutional provisions in relevant areas, and a similar approach could be adopted for an education assembly. Other sources for topics could include the range of education-related commitments in the programme for government, many of which are likely to generate considerable public interest and could benefit from debate in a citizens' assembly forum. It is worth noting that any such discussion in an assembly will complement rather than replace existing and extensive partner engagement fora in the sector. These include the work of the inspectorate in listening to the views of pupils, the primary education forum, our engagement mechanisms and our work with partners in responding to the pandemic.
Yeah, that all sounds great, but my problem is in predicting our engagement with you, Minister, is that over the next period of time, when we raise something which could radically overhaul the education system or bring in a piece of legislation that could enhance equality provisions within education, your go-to answer could very easily be, well, we'll deal with that in the Citizens' Assembly. Now, what I need from you is a commitment as to when you want the Citizens' Assembly to have been established by. I mean, even this morning, if I got a year out of you, I'd appreciate it. Because the last thing I want to do, or any deputy in this House to do, is to have a policy or have a motion to the House or have a piece of legislation, and for you to be able to pick up a script and say, thanks very much, Deputy, but I think the Citizens' Assembly is the best place to deal with that. So what I want from you, please, Minister, give me a year. Just give me a year that you hope the Citizens' Assembly will have started its deliberations by.
Thank you, Deputy. And I appreciate the genuine enthusiasm you have for the Citizens' Assembly. And can I say that I share it? I absolutely share it. And I share it because of its democratic and inclusive nature. I will say to you at this point, okay, with 4 weeks into the job, I will have, and I do have intended, a 3-year strategy and annual implementation plan, which will incorporate priority actions from the Programme for Government, absolutely including and centred to it the Citizens' Assembly on the future of education. And I will publish the details in relation to that before the end of the year.
Margaret.